are a man over 30, I'm pretty sure you have seen this before. But this was the first time I encountered it, and I was completely taken aback. I made a video saying no one will give you better advice than a man who sees you as his wife. So my friend who's in her 30s and don't typically watch my videos, somehow she watched that one. And she called me to tell me she didn't like it. Not because of the message, but because of one word, correction. She said the word correction made her feel like a child, that no man should correct her. He should advise her. Help me understand where you're coming from. What do you think correction is? And I kid you not, we spent about 20 minutes going back and forth. Definitions, explanations, examples, tone, the whole shebang. And at the end of the conversation, after all of that back and forth and explanation, she still said the same thing. The message is good, just not the word. She told me I had to fix the word. And that's when it clicked. I said to her, do you realize what you just did? You manipulated the conversation. You
Let me hold it right there and say this. Most times, people who get stuck on words and say it's not the message, but it's the words, usually they're not interested in receiving what you're saying, anyways. That's from experience. Now, I can tell you personally, I'm the type of person, I do think words matter. Words have meanings, and tone matters. There's a reason for a change in tone, whether it's passion, whether it's you've been dismissive, whatever reason it is, that those things matter. Words and tone matter. However, what doesn't change is if someone is being truthful. And in certain situations, I believe it's important to understand, hey, I don't have to want to be in conversation with you, but if it's something that's going to be helpful for my life to move forward, that I believe I can get from this conversation from you, I may not get it from somebody else within a certain time frame, then I'll receive it and keep it moving. And that's a mentality that I don't know if I had it because of just how I grew up or just self-development. I don't know, but what I've accepted is that if it's truth and if it's going to make me better, if it's going to point out something in my life that I'm doing wrong that needs to be corrected, I may not like the tone. I may not even like the word choice, but the truth of what's there, I still need to receive. I can address the word choice and the tone later if necessary. Because typically, if somebody's talking to me using a bad choice of words and a bad tone, I probably don't have a relationship with them like that anyways, and we won't have many conversations. So it's probably not something I say to them. But if it's like a friend, I usually don't have those issues with word choices and tone. But if so, I still think the message is valid, and I try to acknowledge the message first and that this message is correct. I receive it. Thank you. And then after that, say, furthermore, I like to say this about just the delivery and just share it. But a lot of times, again, people who hyper focus on the words and or tone rather than the message, they're not really interested in receiving the message from you anyways, because they either don't want to be accountable or they just don't like the fact that the mirror is in front of them and they've been called to the front of the classroom and now they're looking to reject it. So let's let her finish, and I'll share the rest later.
who took a message about guidance and growth and you turned it into a debate about a word. Now the focus isn't on the merits of the message.
Mm-hmm.
The focus is now on how the message made you feel.
And I think both things can be true. I think the message made them feel a certain way, um, and I also think that they can be rejecting the message. And I'm gonna say this: people are super manipulative. I've been learning that because My brother told me something years ago. He's like, bro, you're too naive and you got to get better at that. Stop doing that, essentially. And I didn't realize that. I just thought I was just giving people the benefit of the doubt, and I thought that was the best way to be. And I've had several people tell me that. So as I've gotten older, I've been attentive to that, to not be naive, to understand that people are manipulative, that people do reject healthy, wholesome, truthful messages, whether it's about God, whether it's about, an area of correction, whether it's a perspective on politics, whether it's perspective on, life. There are people who are literally rejecting, wholesome messages just because they don't like the message, or they're triggered by it. Maybe it's touching a pain point in their life and pointing something out. Either way, I'm of the perspective that when a message is wholesome, healthy, and the words are as are presented as best they can, when people tend to focus on the message, on the words and the tone, they really don't want to hear the message. They really don't. And you have to use wisdom and say, well, hey, I've shared what I believe I need to share here. We could just move on to another discussion or just be done with the conversation altogether. And just learn not to cast your pearls before swines. You know what I mean? Like there's some people who just don't want to hear anything that's going to challenge them, anything that's going to bring them to the front of the classroom, anything that pushes back against what they want to do. And once I learned that, I'm like, oh, it's just pointless in having certain conversations with people. And they will do all kind of gymnastics. They'll be manipulative. They'll oppose your message based off hypotheticals that don't exist, or they'll just be dishonest in the conversation. They'll try to use stats and all kind of things, and the whole time they just don't want to receive the message. So I've learned that, I've accepted that, and I think the sooner we are more discerning of how people are when we're sharing things, the sooner we can, either decide to share or move on, because that manipulation is like gaslighting. That whole time, as she said in the video, it had nothing to do with the message. She just wanted to argue about how the word made her feel. The word correction, she didn't want to hear that. And I guarantee, that's the last thing I said, I guarantee you that word correction that she had a problem with, I guarantee you somewhere in her adult life, she's used that word on somebody else. Because that's what we tend to be hypocrites, man. We tend to be hypocrites. We don't like certain things for ourselves, but we will definitely do it to other people, for sure. And we'll gaslight people and be manipulative and all this kind of stuff just to avoid accepting the truth. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.